commercial, because it is so heavily based around the business cycle, you can get downturns, and it obviously depends on the asset type as well, because you're reliant on a single business or more likely I'd like you to see, like if it's a $1.5 million purchase, having at least 2, maybe even 3 tenants in that one commercial premise, so therefore you're reducing that risk if they do vacate for some reason, that you're still getting income out of it. But that's the risk, is you can buy an asset, a commercial asset, and then the tenant might default, and then you're left with an asset with no tenant, you got the debt on it. It's a stressful time, and you might be waiting 3 months to get a tenant back in there, and you might have to offer another 3-month rent incentive to get someone in there. Yeah. It's a different ball game, and obviously it's just a numbers scenario with a high level of due diligence. So it's just really important to scratch deeper with the commercial side and get your head around it, because as I said before, residential is easy to get your head around than commercial, but once you understand how commercial works, it's really numbers focused, and it's probably more easier to ascertain its value, its true value, because it's a business essentially.
Like what you talked about in our last podcast episodes, like just focus on the next step, like understand where you want to get to, but just focus on the next step and make the best play in the present moment of the next step that you need to do. And that could be, you get to 2 or 3 properties and you're like, oh, I'm like, I can get there, I can do this, move into a different like investment class. At the same time, people might think, oh, it's, that's a slow, they must think it's a slow path. I think it's pretty decent. At the same time, like, you're waiting for you're putting your money to work and you're waiting for it to grow.
And that's a good point you hit on before too. So it's just like there's strategies where a commercial straight off the bat is really good, and that's because they've got a lot of cash sitting on the sidelines doing nothing, and they're chasing that passive income goal. And if you're chasing that passive income goal, then that's your direct path. Just go straight there.
Yeah.
And then other strategies are like, if you've got 2 or 3 residentials, let's have a look at where that is in its own growth cycle. It might be really good to sell it down to then go into that higher income play, because you might really be at this stage in your life where it's seriously just one sell down and one purchase away from essentially traveling the world for the next 10 years, right? Like, depends on what your budget
that
is.
100k, you could be one move away from. I think so many people don't understand how, like, that have maybe 1 or 2 properties. I don't think they understand how wealthy they really are and what they can do with it, because they could be one play away from not working.
Yep.
And that's what I talk about with one of our friends on our last podcast episode. I'm like, bro, I believe you could be like not working, like with some smart moves, and either now or very, very fast. And it's like, it just depends on where people are at, like their comfortability levels, and then education. Through you buying 1 or 2 residential properties and you're waiting for them to grow, don't be waiting around. Like, you've got this time to learn commercial. You've got so much time to just learn commercial, speak to people, listen to this pod, listen to other things, have a chat to different buyers agents. And that's what I'm doing is I'm just like I'm calling up lenders that are doing commercial loans, speaking to them. I'm speaking to different buyers agents and just like sussing out the whole industry.
I've got one of my good mates, he's a senior commercial valuer, so we'll get him on the podcast.
Jakey.
And there's a lot of value in this space, and I just can't stress it enough. Like, commercial is great, it's also full of risks, same as residential, same as life really. Like, I always disclaim it, but in reality you got to have a go. It's not the hardest thing in the world, and if shit hits the fan and the world ends, as I said before, it never ends. The world will keep spinning on that front, but having the right people and the right team on your side to even ask those right questions, who see it every day. Like, you can be the most educated person in the room because you've read so many books, but I'm telling you now, just getting in and doing it, it'll fast track that education, and you'll learn more than any book will ever be able to tell you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Theory
versus action.
Yeah, there's a marriage of both, and people do sort of go in, like I get clients like, I want this and this and this and this in my next investment property, and it's like, okay, cool, you've read a lot of information, a lot of books.
You've been sold a lot of crap.
Yeah, and now you have this perfect pipe dream, so let's start breaking it down, and that's kind of where my, I guess, strategy sessions start pushing more into now with people, is just understanding what they've learned and then breaking it down further to see if that actually is what is best suited to them and their personality.
Yeah.
But there is some really key strategic ways to get into commercial, and going residential first to help build that deposit, because it's making your money work harder for you in that growth perspective. You can do the sell down strategy, and then you can also do the draw equity out strategy to get into commercial. But your commercial is your income play in property. I mean, you can go into the rooming house side of things, which I'll talk about, and that's basically a residential house with multiple rooms being rented out. You can also buy unit blocks, any units over 3 units on one title. That's a commercial loan anyway. But if you're chasing passive income, the commercial route is just it's a far more efficient route, because it's a net lease. Your tenant pays your outgoings, so it reduces your level of personal time and maintenance required, and it's also in the tenant's best interest to look after the property for maintenance, because they're running their business out of it, so they've got clients coming and going.
I think we've spot on. Like leaning in on what you're just saying there is, we mentioned this a couple of podcast episodes ago, is like a lot of passive income streams. Like a lot of people think that you need lots of passive income streams, when the reality is, like, if you've built a portfolio of 10 to 20 residential properties that are earning you, say 70 grand a year net after like waiting 15, 20 years, would you rather be owning that and managing that, say 20 residential properties, versus maybe 2 or 3 great assets that are in commercial that earn more money or the same amount of money? Like it's why like just larger assets but less of them that perform better.
Yeah, well, performance too. Like, I mean, depends what you classify as performance. Correct. If you're wanting cash flow, commercial. If you're wanting capital growth, residential.